Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. Hi, I'm Iris Acker, and I am your host today. Today's show is titled Meet Karen Stevens. A little bit different. You're in for a big surprise. Please say hello to our panel. First up, joining us again is Nicholas Richberg, who is an actor and also Public Relations Director for Zoetic Stage. And, Michael McKeever is back with us today. Hello, Michael. He's an actor, he's a playwright, he's a scenic designer, he's a graphic artist, he's overwhelming. And Bill Hirschman, who is an arts journalist. I like the way that sounds.
And overwhelming.
And overwhelming. And his website is Florida Theater on Stage, telling you everything about everything in the theater in South Florida. And our guest today is Karen Stevens.
Who?
Karen, we're turning the tables on. Of course, she's usually a panelist, but at our audience's request, slowly, we're going to meet all our panelists. And today, Karen, it's your turn. You are, as we always announce you, as you're an actor, and you also are a writer and an educator, I believe. I'm probably leaving out a couple of things, no?
Well, I'm not an educator. I've done workshops. But I'm not officially
so we'll say
an educator.
Teacher, whatever you want.
But yes.
And I get to start first. Wow. Yeah. Where to begin? The Karen Stevens, who literally has done everything. Did I say, and she sings too. So I'm just going to let you tell me a little something about yourself. This is what we get to say, to answer on most auditions when you go on camera. So tell me a little something about yourself. I want to know a lot about you.
Well, I'm a native Floridian, South Florida, born and bred. I have a degree in theater from the University of Florida in performance and dance. So I started out as a musical theater brat and gradually morphed into an actor later in my career. You know, I wanted the big roles. I wanted to do the big leads, but I'm not a lyric soprano. I'm an alto, and most of the leads are written for lyric sopranos. So that knocked me out of the box right there.
Well.
You know, I was a great, ensemble member, but you know, you want to graduate to the top of your class, you know. So, and I wanted to do the big roles. So I started doing more and more dramatic roles. And so that's mostly what I do today. I love doing comedy whenever I can. I recently jumped into the world of stand-up comedy. I always wanted to do it, and I gave it a shot and didn't bomb. So I'm kind of building that part of my my performing career now. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, if I may, to jump on that subject, you are, as Iris pointed out, you're considered one of the region's most respected and esteemed actors. I've seen you be hysterically funny. I've seen you break hearts. I've seen you shatter people's expectations of what your characters are expected to do. What do you prefer to do on stage? Do you like getting the laughs? Do you like the more dramatic roles? What's your preference, or is there one?
That's a great question. I don't know. I love doing things that people don't expect me to do.
Like what?
You know, like say for instance with Fear Up Harsh last season for Zoetic Stage.
Carbonell winning performance
for Fear Up and Harsh. Yes.
Written by Christopher Demos Brown. I played a sergeant, a U.S. Army sergeant suffering from PTSD. But there was a heavy comedic bent to a part of it. It was both a dramatic work and comedy. And I was like a pig in slop, you know? It was great because I got to dig for something that I rarely get asked to dig for, which is, you know, the tragedy in someone's life and living that tragedy, but also balancing that with comedy and doing it so that it doesn't detract from the pathos.
That's interesting. I'm thinking of Mountaintop, The Maid, and so versatile, you know? Nobody typecasts you. It's a matter of Karen can do that.
Well, yeah, and I lobbied for that part. I didn't, you know, when I found out Joe Adler was going to do that show at Gable Stage, I said, you know, I don't think I'll audition for that. And he called me in to read for it. And once I read, I wanted it.
I love it. You should tell people what the role was, what the play was.
The play, The Mountaintop, which is a fictional account of Martin Luther King's last night alive after his I Have a Dream speech in Memphis. And he's in his hotel room, and he calls for room service, and the maid comes up. And we find out later what the actual story really is. But again, another role that you wouldn't expect. A lot of times I get the professional button-down, you know, roles like the lawyer or the, you know, civil servant, or, you know. I like doing the out-of-the-box kind of things.
Let's talk about Out of the Box right now. You wrote that.
Yes, I wrote a show called Out of the Box. I was at a point where I didn't feel like I was getting enough acting opportunities. I had been introduced to this arts organization called Alternate Roots that's based in Atlanta, that is a social arts organization. They look to create social change through community art. And a lot of people were creating solo works, and I said, you know what, I want to do that. I need to do that. I need to create a work for myself so that, you know, when I'm not working, I can, you know, I can have something that I can pitch to someone so that I can perform. So I wrote an autobiographical piece called Out of the Box. And it's a comedic dance theater piece, about an hour long. It's like a runaway train from start to finish. It's been a few years now since I performed, but the premise is that once you check those racial classification boxes on any application, you then become bound by the parameters of that
box.
Of that box.
That's great.
Hence, Out of the Box. And the motif for Out of the Box was me as myself running a race. And it's like being black in America is like running a race you never win. Mm-hmm. So you're just constantly trudging, trying to get ahead, and there's always these obstacles. And primary one is because of the box that we are forced to
How
check.
do you feel that relates to being an actress, a black actress, in America and in South Florida specifically? Do you find there's opportunity, or do you feel like as you were beginning your career, I mean now you're established so it's different, but as you were beginning, did you find it a challenge, or did you find that it provided you opportunity?
Most of my career, especially when I was younger, I just morphed into so many people to fit in. I did. I was very assimilated. I was. It was like, whatever you need me to do, you know, I'll do it. You know, it was just, you know, I just wanted to work.
But that's changed now.
But that's changed now.
Oh, yeah.
No. I've just become more self-aware, more socially aware. I know who I am now. And I have a voice. So I think now it's more along the lines of, you know, I've had great opportunities in the South Florida theater. I've had opportunities where I was hired to do non-traditional roles, which was really wonderful. I did a lot of that at Florida Stage. One of them was Michael McKeever's Charlie Cox Runs with Scissors. Another role that was an out-of-the-box kind of role for me because I played the character Love, and along with Paul Tay, who played Death. And
if I may, the play is about a gentleman who finds out that he has ALS. And just goes into the desert and drives. And in the middle of the desert, he meets a hitchhiker who he finds out to be his own personal death. They stop at a hotel. He falls in love with the woman who runs the hotel, and out of a closet comes a beautiful blind woman who we find out to be love. And then love and death then battle for this man's soul.
Right.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so I played blind love.
Which was so wonderful, too, is that again, at that point, I had known Karen as being this wonderful, serious, dramatic actress. And she came in with this over-the-top, beautifully realized comedic gem that I just didn't, knew she had in her. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
that's great. But and again, a chance to do something that I hadn't had the opportunity to do before. So I've been fortunate in that I've been given the opportunity to do a lot of those kinds of things. I can't say that that's the truth for most black actresses in South Florida.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's not the same, right? I mean, so if you were speaking to a young black actress, in school right now and thinking about maybe either staying here in South Florida or moving away to build her career, what advice could you give her as a black actress to do that in this community?
I guess it would depend on what their ultimate goal was. When I got out of college, I wanted to go to New York and dance with Alvin Ailey. That was my goal. I've had so many goals over my life.
That's okay, that's good.
I grew up playing the violin. I wanted to play in a philharmonic. That was one of my goals once. And then I was in the high school orchestra pit playing Oliver, and I wanted to be on stage then, so I joined the drama club. And I went to college to major in English, and I wound up majoring in theater and dance. So, those, your goals and your dreams change over the years. And, so I went from wanting to be a violinist to wanting to be a dancer with Alvin Ailey, My mom was not hearing about me going to New York by myself when I got out of college. So I based my professional career here, and I've been fortunate. I've worked. So it depends on what their ultimate goal is. I would say that if you want more opportunities, then certainly you have to be in a larger market. But then again, if you're good at what you do, and there are opportunities to fill roles that don't necessarily call for, a person of color, then you make your opportunities where you are.
And one of the things that you did in making your own opportunities was undertaking Bridge and Tunnel, where you played 14 different characters.
15.
and would change on a dime. You would go off stage, come back, and be completely different. I think as an acting challenge, I found that fascinating because when you came back, you completely inhabited that character. I mean, with no time to delve in it. So can you talk a little bit about the process of being able to, first of all, find 14 or 15 completely distinct characters, and then that will be distinct to the audience, and then how you manage to inhabit them so quickly? Is it externals, internals, what?
Oh man, Bridge and Tunnel, which is a one-woman show written by Sarah Jones, who was a performance poet. She wrote and performed it on Broadway. It was produced by Meryl Streep, and she won a special Tony. Sarah Jones won a special Tony for it. And I did the regional premiere of Bridge and Tunnel at Florida Studio Theater in Sarasota. They put out a call for people to come audition. I said, I can't do that. I'm not going. And know thyself. And they kept that, and then people kept referring me to, I think you were one of the people that referred me to Kate Alexander over there. So I went and auditioned. Well, I put myself on tape, and then they brought me over to audition, and I got the gig. It was one of the most rewarding theatrical experiences and rehearsal processes I've been through. We would have, there were two people hired to do the run. We were going to split the performances. I ended up being the only person to do the entire run. But we would, at the beginning of rehearsal, she would interview us as the different characters, an on-the-spot interview, which I found was extremely interesting. So we had to be in character while she and the stage manager asked us questions. and I had never done that before, and it really helps you to inhabit the life of that character, because then you make up a life for them on the spot, because if someone's asking you a question about them. So it opened up and enriched the process, I found. So Muhammad, who's it takes place at the Poetry Slam in New York, in Queens, and Muhammad is a Pakistani man who is a tax accountant, and he runs this poetry slam. And all of these different people from these different backgrounds, nationalities, they come and they share their stories, either a story or poem or whatever. And the 14 different characters, including Muhammad. One is a Jordanian woman. One is an 11-year-old. What's on the other side of Haiti? Dominican.
Yeah, I was panicked there for a minute.
Geography.
Yeah, an 11-year-old Dominican girl and her teacher. There's a Hispanic woman. There's an Asian slam poet. There's an Australian woman. There's a Russian man.
So there was some dialect work to do with this film.
There's a lot of dialect work to do.
But also physicality.
Yes. So I find that we all have different rhythms, different nationalities. We have rhythms in our speech, rhythms in our movement. As a matter of fact, as an actor, I base a lot of my work off of rhythm, which is, there's music in the language, and there's rhythm in the movement. So for the characters, I had to find the rhythm for each character. That was the basis of developing the character, for the patterns of speech, and also for the way they move throughout space.
Is that your background as a dancer, do you think? Makes you have that approach with the characters?
A dancer and a musician.
And a musician,
yeah. I think so. And I'm really, it's so funny because not everybody hears the music in my head. And when you're working with other people, and they're not doing
singing
it the
same
way.
Song.
They're not singing the same
They're not singing the same
song.
Music? What music?
You're not mentioning the director. How important in everything that you do is the director?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely necessary. I've worked with some of the best directors I think that anybody could work with. Like I said, for Bridge and Tunnel was Kate Alexander.
Who was the director?
Kate Alexander,
Kate
Florida
Alexander.
Studio Theater. Yeah, she's phenomenal. Lou Tyrrell has directed me in quite a few things. J. Barry Lewis, who just directed me in Doubt up at the Maltz Jupiter Theater a couple of seasons ago. Stuart Meltzer. I've worked with some of, Joe Adler. I've worked with some stellar directors, and I had one director. I did a show called Mama Drama at Florida Stage, and Ann Sachs, they brought her in to direct, and she taught me some of the most amazing things about being an actor on stage, about what to do, what not to do on stage, and that experience was, I'll never, it will stay with me for the rest of my life,
Are you still auditioning, doing monologues, and they still ask that of you? Don't you just automatically get... Oh, yeah, that's a joke.
Karen's offer only.
I'm sorry. No, well, then let's...
Oh, Iris.
I'm really very naive when it comes to that. But,
I wish it was like that, but no. I mean, I've been fortunate to, sometimes people have just said, hey, come do this. But no, I still had to go in and audition.
Well, you mentioned twice when talking about Bridge and Tunnel and Mountaintop. I heard you say that at the beginning they weren't roles you thought you could do or that you'd be right for. And that's a challenge for an actor, right? Always riding the line between knowing thyself and maybe being willing to take a leap or see yourself as not the way a director might see you and believe that you could do something.
Yes.
How do you balance that?
I don't know.
It's a challenge, right?
Yes, it is.
It's a great question, and it is.
It
You don't want to
really
limit
is.
yourself, but at the same time, you don't want to play that part that is simply not what
You don't want to be the one who says, I can do that, and then you can't.
Exactly.
That's simply not in your physical
Yes,
ability to do.
yes.
The flip side of that is when you've got a really good actor who has a certain persona nailed down, and then them trying to go in for a part that isn't in that persona. And I've seen many actors who are really good and going, the director should have asked for more for you to go past those paradigms that you use all the time. But it may be that's exactly why the director has sort of typecast you. They may
Into
go,
those- into
I
that
know,
part.
I know Bill can do this kind of thing, and you're going, yeah, but I can do all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah, and an actor lives for the times when we can prove ourselves, and show different sides of our, because that's what we do, and that's what acting is all about. And so don't put me in a box and expect me to do just one thing, because I want to be able to do all kinds of stuff. I always said that I want to play Maggie the cat.
You know what? I was just going to ask. What is your bucket list? I mean,
I don't really have one.
Are there any one or two roles that you really love?
I really wanted to do Maggie. I really want to do Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I don't know why. Maybe because she wore the slip. I don't know.
I want to do that.
I can do that.
I look good in that slip.
I want to do that. But I would love to play Madame, Torvel and Dangerous Liaisons. I would love to be able to tackle some stuff.
People
like
think
that.
of you now as a dramatic actress, serious actress, but I know that you started in musical theater and you're kind of a musical theater geek at heart and you love musicals. Like, if you had to do a musical, if you were going to go back to the musical stage, what role would it be? What would you love to do? What musical have you always wanted
to do? Well, I almost had a chance to do Velma Kelly last season with Boca Raton Theater Guild, but I was doing season before last, I was doing Doubt at the Malt. So I wasn't there, but I've always wanted to do Velma. I would love to do In the Heights.
Yeah?
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect here.
Yeah. So there are a few of them. Oh, Anita, West Side Story.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's somebody's doing that somewhere. I heard.
know.
In your future, who knows? So here's a question: do you find being a dancer, being a musician, being a writer, being an actor, that each of these different talents helps feed the other one?
Oh yeah,
Or the
absolutely, absolutely. When I was in high school, I said I wanted to be a critic. I wanted to be I wanted to be a columnist. That's why I went to school to major in English. Because that's what I wanted to do. And, I didn't do that.
Most of them wanted to be actors.
True.
And so, I wrote a little over the years, but I didn't really start writing until, I don't know, maybe like 20 years ago, like writing seriously. So I write some poetry. I've written a couple of plays. One play that I wrote called Breaking Chains. It was commissioned by Alternative Arts Education and the Department of Justice, and I went out and I workshopped with teenage girls in the teenage prison. This was a few years ago. Yeah, and created a play out of that work, and it's actually pretty good, if I say so myself. And a couple of short pieces for the Kravis Center for their summer educational program, and then of course my own work. So I find that they feed each other. As far as my writing informing what I currently do as an actor or performer, it's kind of separate. I haven't really been able to,
You mentioned wanting to play Maggie the Cat. We're always asking people what your take on colorblind casting is. Are there limits to colorblind casting? What do you expect out of an audience?
I do think that sometimes colorblind casting, even though it's noble, sometimes expecting the audience to suspend their disbelief a little bit too much. So I'm kind of on the fence about that. You know, I definitely think that, you know, opportunities should be open for people who, you know, wouldn't be normally considered for certain roles. But I do think sometimes it's too much of a stretch. And I wish I could think of a great example right now. I could, but I'm not going to use that one.
Please do. Please do.
We won't tell anyone. It'll be between us.
Yeah, nobody's.
Well, I'll just say, like, Three Sisters, for instance. You know, that would be a bit of a stretch for, you know.
They are doing
for
things
the
like
audience.
that. They are doing
you know, but
sure.
I know they are. But it's a bit of a stretch. And you know, and of course, you know, the role of Maggie, you know, would be a stretch, you know, in an all-white cast.
But I have to tell you, I saw the all-black cast of
James Earl Jones.
with James Earl
Well,
Jones.
the all-black cast is fine.
As far as
having a black Maggie and everyone else be white.
Because of the time
No question
period
about it.
and.
But I tell you, as far as we're concerned, Karen can do anything. And I think that we've proved it to you as well. How about that? And little by little, I think I'll let you get to know all our panelists. And I want to thank Karen above all. I just found out something. I thought I knew everything about you, far from it. And I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed it. So I want to thank you. I want to thank our panel. And I always want to thank you for tuning in and watching us every week right here on Spotlight on the Arts. Oh, and please, if you want to know what's going on in the theater, and I always encourage you to go to the theater, just tune in to look up FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. And it'll help you to go, and we encourage you to go. And as I said, encourage you to watch us right here every week.